Honestly, I always thought that this book was incredible, but after learning about the politics of smell and the way that literature talks about negative scents, I realized that this book is actually genius. Hello everyone, this is Darkest Tower Reads, and today I want to review Perfume by Patrick Susskind, but I want to give it a little twist. And instead of actually talking about the book specifically, I want to talk about how we see the psychology of smell in this book specifically. I got the idea for this video after getting to know Dr. Ali Lux. So if you don't know who she is, she got extremely viral some months ago on Twitter because of her PhD thesis, or more specifically about its title. You have the picture over here, but basically in this thesis, she mentions how, or she explains how authors in literature for the past few centuries have been using scent or have been using smell as a way to create a subconscious idea and a subconscious bias towards characters or towards specific people. So let's say, for example, me as an author, I want to create a negative emotion or a negative bias towards a certain character. I would use negative smells to describe this character in order to create this subconscious bias or this subconscious idea. And honestly, after getting to know the politics of smell, or the way that Dr. Ali Lux was explaining these negative subconscious and these biases, I realized that this is exactly what happens in Perfume by Patrick Susskind. And I don't know if she got the idea from this book, or even if the doctor has read this book, but honestly, it just actually made me reread the book, and I realize now how genius this book actually is. For those who don't know what Perfume is about, as a short summary, the story follows an orphan in Paris in the 1700s whose mother basically is tried for infanticide, and immediately after him being born, she is tried and killed. And basically he grows as an orphan, and he for some reason always gets rejected by the people around him, so by the people that take care of him as a baby or by his peers, and he is extremely solitary, extremely quiet. But he has what we call a superpower, which is he has an incredible sense of smell. Before we get into the juice of the summary, I just want to let you know that there's going to be some spoilers, and we are going to be talking about the book in specific. So if you don't want to know the story because you haven't read it yet, or you don't want to be spoiled, please make sure you scroll just to let you know. Getting into the first part of the book, basically the first part follows Grenouille, the orphan, who basically walks around Paris trying to discover all these new smells and keeping them in his memory, right? We see how he follows negative smells, for example, or smells that he doesn't recognize, in order to basically make a mental catalog, and he naturally tries to combine the smells, for example, and see how they would smell, and just like everything is in his imagination, right? But we also see that there's this sort of extremism between around him. We see how he is very attractive to very negative smells, like the smell of feces, for example. That's something that fascinates him. But also at the same time, we see how he has this obsession to get the perfect smell, right? Which I think he's around 13, 14, he's a teenager. And basically one day in the part 1 of the book, we see how he smells one scent that he is crazy about, that he can't stop himself from following. And after hours of trying to follow this smell, he realizes that it comes from a woman, from a virgin girl, who smells really fresh, like flowers and like ripe fruit. And he doesn't know exactly why she smells like that, but he realizes that this scent is something that he wants to possess. So I would say accidentally more than on purpose, but he accidentally kills this woman, this girl, and keeps the body with him until the scent disappears, because he wants to manipulate the smell, and he wants to make sure that he's the only one that smells the scent. That is how obsessed he is with scents and with smell in general. And from that day onwards, and we see this on in the rest of the parts, we see how everything that he does is driven because of this scent, because of the necessity of taking this smell, keeping it, and just being able to smell it forever. That's why in the next part, for example, he becomes a perfumist, or an apprentice at least, in order to learn about perfumery and to learn about how to keep this smell and how to create or recreate this smell. And then on the third part, we see how he travels to another town in France in order to also try to learn more about perfumery, because his old master is not an expert, or is not what he's looking for, or he doesn't have the techniques that he needs. So therefore he travels around Paris and around France, even though he is deterred by like some years. But yeah, he travels around France in order to make sure that he learns the proper techniques of perfumery in order to keep this scent. During the third part of the book, we realize, or at least the character realizes, that he doesn't have a scent. He doesn't emanate any sort of smell. This is why the vast majority of people that he has met have rejected him, because he naturally and subconsciously puts off people, because he doesn't have a human smell, right? This is what we see in the third part, and then he realizes that this is something that he can use for his benefit, right? He creates a human scent which he puts on himself, and he realizes immediately that people are now treating him like a human rather than something they have to run away from, and he realizes that if he combines certain smells alongside with his human perfume costume, as he says, he understands, or he knows, that he's gonna create certain emotions and certain subconscious biases in people, which is something that we see on the fourth part. And we see how he creates all these scents that make people go absolutely bananas, and we see how he uses these smells in order to get a benefit from people. Getting into the discussion, because I don't want to give much more information about the book, because if you want more information, you could read the book, honestly. But yeah, getting into the discussion, as someone who has an incredibly poor sense of smell, because I have a deviated septum, I can tell you for a fact that this book was so freaky for me, because I could genuinely smell all the scents that the author was talking about. It was just very, very freaky, and I think this is something that it has never happened to me, because when I read a book, I see the scenes in my mind, right? But the fact that someone was talking about the scent and I could feel it in my nose and in my mouth, I was like, oh my god, this is so freaky, honestly. And honestly, as a psychologist, I think this is one of the best things about this book, and this is why I view this book in such high regards, because as someone who knows about the biology of the sense of smell, or the olfactory sense, it's just so interesting to see how this is actually, like, this book is actually so real and so appropriate to neurobiology, for example, and the anatomy of the olfactory sense. I have my notes over here, so I'm sorry again, as always, if I don't look at you directly in the eyes. But yeah, let me just tell you a little bit about the psychology of the olfactory sense, and you will realize how accurate this book actually is, and how important smell actually is for us. The first thing that I have to say about the olfactory sense is that, first of all, as humans, it is incredibly underdeveloped, okay? So we know that there are other senses that are more developed than others, in humans at least. So for example, for us, our eyes have always been incredibly developed, as well as touch and temperature. And unfortunately, the sense of smell is not as developed as other animals, for example, canids or primates, for obvious reasons, right? Because we don't use scent as much to hunt, for example, or for survival. But basically, for humans, the olfactory sense is everything is related to the nose and the brain more specifically. And actually, interestingly, the olfactory sense is the one that is more connected to the brain than any other sense of smell, any other sense that we have for some reason, which I think it probably is because our olfactory sense is very primitive, so therefore we didn't need to have as many evolutionary processes in order to develop it, or it wasn't like evolution in the olfactory sense wasn't as adaptive as we thought, so therefore it didn't evolve as much as others. If you see this picture over here, so this is the olfactory sense. Basically, this is how it works in a very simplified way, because obviously I am not an expert, even though I am a psychologist and I have learned about this. I am not an expert in the research, but basically this is what we need, or like these are the parts of the brain and the nose that we need in order for us to understand smells, or in order for us to smell a scent. So basically this orange part over here, so this would be the olfactory bulb, which is they are usually around the nose, or like around the bone over here. So we would have them over here, and once we feel the smell or like scent coming into our noses, these olfactory bulbs would activate, and then they would bring the information to the central part of the brain, which is like more or less over here, but like in the middle, right? Which is this orange part, which is called the hypothalamus, and this would send the information to all the pathways, right? Like the hypothalamus is literally the center of the olfactory sense. Then we have this green button over here, which is the olfactory cortex, which is in the temporal lobe, which is around here more or less, which is the part that allows us to consciously perceive the scent, right? Which is, let's say for example, I have chocolate cake over here. Once I smell the scent of chocolate, the scent would go into my olfactory bulb, then it will go into the hypothalamus, and then once the hypothalamus is activated, the olfactory cortex would understand that I am smelling chocolate, right? And then we have the hippocampus, which is also inside in the middle, a little bit around there. We have the olfactory memory, which is basically what gives you not only allows you to recognize the scent if you have smelled it already, or if you have smelled it before, but also it would connect this scent to other memories that you have from the same scent. Let's say, for example, I love chocolate cake because my mother always made chocolate cake for my birthday. So once I smell the chocolate cake, I will have all these memories of my mother making chocolate cake because of my birthday. So that is more or less how it works when it comes to the memory of smells. And then finally, we have the amygdala, which is the pink part of the brain, which is also in the center, I think, just in the center, in the main area of the brain, which is what creates the emotional responses from the scent, right? So for example, let's say I smell chocolate cake and I love it, I will get a reward emotion, or like an emotion of reward, because I am excited to smell that cake or to eat that cake. And then lastly, we have the reticular formation, which is the red part of the brain that is what allows us, which is around here, so not here on the neck, but like here on the lower side of our skull, which is the part that allows us, that makes us have the visceral reactions to the scents. So let's say, for example, we get chocolate cake and we are excited, we will feel our heart going faster, or like our heartbeat going faster, and we will get this emotion of, or like all the body reactions that we get when we are happy and when we are excited, because we have these memories and we are naturally excited for the smell. Obviously, we have been talking about this pathway in a positive way, but let's say that you're walking by the street and out of nowhere you smell of urine. Obviously, the vast majority of people will not find the smell of urine agreeable or pleasurable. So therefore, all these pathways will give you negative reactions, either negative emotions or negative visceral reactions, like feeling sick or feeling sadness or anger because you're smelling of urine. So this is the one thing that is so fascinating about the olfactory sense, that you will always see either positive or negative emotions. You will never see a neutral emotion, because at the end of the day, this is the only thing that is black and white, right? You probably, there are some smells that you probably don't mind smelling, but if you don't mind them, that means that they are not negative, right? Getting into the analysis, after telling you everything about the olfactory sense, which I hope you guys understood and I made myself clear, this is why I think that this book, that Perfume, is such a genius book, because we very clearly see in the book how Grenouille goes through all these paths and how subconscious these pathways are, right? We see how once he receives this sense, for example, he has an immediate emotional and physical reaction, and then the memories appear, right? And we see how driven we actually are by smell. Even if we don't realize ourselves, for example, we still have these negative or positive emotions and these visceral reactions. And this is something that happens to all of us, at least if you have a sense of smell, right? If you don't have it, then this doesn't happen to you. But yeah, this is something that happens to all of us too, as humans. For example, have you ever, as a person, for example, let's say you're walking by the street again, and then out of nowhere you smell a perfume that you really, really like from someone else, not your own body, but you smell a perfume that you really like from someone else. Obviously, naturally, you will turn your head because you want to see who is the person that smells really good, right? Or for example, when your partner puts that perfume that you really enjoy, and then you can't stop yourself from smelling, and then you have all these positive emotions and almost primal, I would say, all these primal emotions of, oh my god, you smell so good. You don't really know how to react or how to act, because there's these very primal or subconscious emotions that you get from these scents. This is the one thing that honestly I think is quite a turn on. I'm not gonna lie. I think scent is so powerful and we don't even realize, even taking into account that sense and the olfactory sense is just so undeveloped for us as humans. That is fascinating. I find it incredible. I love it. Now, after everything that I discussed about the book and about the olfactory sense and how genius it is, obviously, if you haven't made the connection already, I think Dr. Ali Lix is so right about everything that she mentions in her Twitter account or in all her social media about scents and about the way we use scent descriptions as a way to create a subconscious emotion on other people, right? Or towards other characters. And this is something that we also see in Renew, right? We see how he mentions that he despises humanity because he hates how they smell, because they stink, because they smell feces, of urine, of sweat, of sperm, for example. And we see how he has all these physical visceral emotions and reactions to the negative smells, or the traditionally negative smells from humanity, right? This is why he just lives for 7 years and just disappears out of the map, because he doesn't want to smell humanity. And this is something that we see in modern literature as well, or in any other social media or media in general. I would say in general culture even, we see how many songs or how many people that create these drugs, they mention how someone can stink or someone is unhygienic, or how we use the terms unhygienic or any sort of unhygienic related terms as a way to insult someone. Like, for example, oh, you don't wash your ass, right? Like, that is another example that we see in media. And we also see in the book how even positive emotions or positive sense or positive human sense can even create emotions of arousal or sexiness in the book, right? In Grenouille, for example, we see how virginity, or like a woman that is a virgin and that is young, creates this emotion of arousal and this emotion of want to conquer and just to keep and control this scent, specifically because of what it creates and what this scent means, right? Let's say, for example, in this case specifically, I believe Grenouille wanted to keep this smell, or like was so obsessed with this smell, not because it smelled good, or like mainly not because it smelled good, but because of what it naturally represents, right? Like virginity for women in society, at least in the West, it has always meant that you are pure, that you are untouched, and therefore that you are clean, right? Like not only physically but also spiritually clean, right? And this is something that has always been deemed attractive in our society, or at least in the past centuries. And also, first of all, I have to say that women generally take care of themselves much more than men. Women are usually more hygienic, so therefore we generally smell better. At least like in our society, that's how it feels, or that's how it is. You can look at the research if you want, but that's my opinion at least. We also see how society is so we find purity so important. Like no one has polluted you as a virgin woman, right? No one has touched you. You are not sick. You don't have diseases, even STDs, for example, or any sort of diseases, because no one has physically touched you. But also we have this desire, or like this subconscious desire of ownership, right? Let's say as a virgin woman, or like men in general, they are very attracted to virginity because they have this desire. It creates this desire of ownership and control. It creates the desire of owning the scent directly, for Grenouille at least. As a quick conclusion, I have to say that I really enjoyed this book, not only because of how accurate it is to the psychology of smell, but also because of the way that I saw smells portrayed, right? I am someone who has a really poor sense of smell, again, as I mentioned before, but the fact that I was able to imagine these smells and think about these smells and feel these reactions myself directly is just something that is very unique and that I have never consciously seen in other books, and which is something that I think is fascinating. And I think you have to be a very good author or a very good writer in order for you to be able to create these subconscious emotions on people. So honestly, please read Perfume by Patrick Susskind. This is not a miss, and you will not regret reading this book, at least if you like this kind of stories, and also at least if you enjoy a dark type of book, like dark and murderous and like quite sickly kind of book. This is a book for you. Please read it. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm so sorry for the light. For some reason today it is really sunny, which doesn't happen in England, which is weird, but also I'm quite enjoying it at the moment. But yeah, please let me know if you read the book. If you read it and you want to talk about it, please feel free to go on my social media, or you can put it in the comments. I would love to hear your opinion. And before we leave, I would love to know what is your favorite scent, or what is the scent that you are obsessed with at the moment. Because for me, I am obsessed with honeyed apricots for some reason. Like I tried a new perfume some weeks ago. I kind of want to gatekeep the perfume because it is just that good. But yeah, I smelled it and I smelled like honeyed apricots, and I was just like, I could not stop smelling myself because it was just that good. So yeah, what is the smell that you are obsessed with, or what is your favorite perfume? I would love to know. Let me know. Thank you guys. Bye.